All right. Hello, everybody.
Hello, welcome to Fate's Wide Wheel. I'm Sam.
I'm Dennis. Welcome back for another episode. Let's do some housekeeping before we get into it.
Yeah.
First time tuning in, you can find us on the web, our website, fateswidewheel.com, on all the social media, Facebook /at Fates Wide Wheel, Twitter, Instagram. We have a Patreon. Sam, you and me, we got to get off our butts and start coming up with
Uh,
some tiers and stuff. I have some ideas for stuff to get people over. We have a YouTube channel. We're not quite up to 100 followers yet, but once we get there, we can get us a handle on there. Otherwise, just look us up on the website. You'll find our YouTube page. Find our YouTube page there. And if you're following us and have not liked or reviewed us yet on Apple Podcast or wherever you get your podcast, please give us a rating. Please give us a follow. Share with your fellow Quantum Leap fans. And with that, we were going to be talking about Starcross this week.
we
We
were.
got some news. What are we going to be talking about instead, Sam?
Yeah, so we are going to be talking about Raymond Lee, who was announced as Ben Seong. The name was changed initially on the casting notice and the script. It was Ben Prasad, but that has been changed to fit the fact that we have an actor of South Korean descent now taking this role. We knew that based off the casting notice that they were looking specifically at actors from Middle East, North African descent or Asian American Pacific Islander, and obviously the latter was the direction that they went. I do think it's interesting based off of the casting notes that obviously I think that the character had initially been written in mind with potentially an actor of Middle Eastern descent in mind, just with the name and with a couple of other things that we'll talk a little bit about later. I'm excited. I was just thrilled to have a face and someone we could do some research on and figure out our initial impressions. But it was a big announcement. We knew it wouldn't necessarily be a big enough announcement to fill the whole show, but we also knew that we would not want to couple it necessarily with doing one of our revisited, capsule reviews. So we are going to
Sure.
delay the Star-Crossed review, but yeah, we've got some exciting stuff to talk about. And it's interesting because, this is the only piece of casting that's been revealed. And we do know that production is starting up within the next week.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting to see if anything else rolls out. We've not heard anything from our source. And if we do, obviously we'll share it with you as soon as we can. They've been they've been busy with another project, so they haven't necessarily been able to have their finger on the pulse of Quantum Leap
Mm-hmm.
as much as maybe they had initially. But
But
yeah,
they have come
Raymond
through for
Lee.
us,
Yeah, they've come through for us in other
which we'll
ways.
get to. We'll get to that here in a little bit.
We will. What are your initial thoughts, Dennis?
Here's the thing. To be honest, I never heard of Raymond Lee. The only
Sure.
thing I'm vaguely familiar with that he's been in is Kevin Can Go F Himself,
Yes.
which I am interested in seeing because that stars the actor from Schitt's Creek,
Yep.
and I don't know her name off the top of my head other than her character's name for Schitt's Creek, Annie Murphy. I really enjoy her. I just have not watched the show because I am not interested in getting yet another streaming service. And Kevin Can Go F Himself is only on AMC streaming.
Actually, the first three episodes are available on Amazon Prime. So if you have Amazon
Oh,
Prime,
all
you can
right.
stream the first three episodes and you get some great stuff with Raymond Lee because I decided to go ahead and give
To do that.
myself some
Well, you know what?
homework. Yeah.
I'm looking at the cast and the character list for Kevin Go F Himself right now for the first time. Of course, Raymond Lee got cast. You know what his name is on Kevin Go F
Yeah,
Himself?
it's great. It's
Sam.
Sam. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
Sam.
he's already built in.
And not only is his name Sam in Kevin Can Go F Himself, but in the show that he was on prior to this, Here and Now, which is on HBO Max, you can check that out. His character is a life coach, and the short premise of Here and Now, it's about these two sort of upper class progressive parents. One of them is turning 60. They've adopted children from all over the world. Their son Duke, who's played by Raymond Lee, is from Vietnam. They have a daughter who is from Liberia, and another son who's from Colombia, and then they have a biological daughter. Basically, on the eve of the father's, the patriarch's 60th birthday, all sorts of stuff starts to go haywire, and that's where the series kicks off. So Raymond Lee's character is a life coach, and one of his very first lines in the pilot episode, I could not make this up, is "You can't change the past." which I just thought, like, between that and his character being named Sam and Kevin can go F himself, it's perfect. Um, yeah, I have to say, like I said, trying to do a bit of homework. I was initially excited because before I'd ever seen him in anything, I read about his theater credentials and the fact that he started off with a very strong theater background. He won a Theater World Award for a starring role in a play called Viet Gone, which he plays a Vietnamese refugee during the Vietnam War, shortly after the Vietnam War, and it's about the playwright's actual parents, and he played the lead role in that. He also took Best in Festival at the Hollywood Fringe Festival. So immediately I just felt like this kind of kinship. It's like, oh, this is a theater guy. This is great.
I hadn't thought about this. I'm Googling it right now. Does he sing?
I don't know
Because
if he does.
I just Googled it, and another actor named Raymond J.
Jay
Lee
Lee.
has popped up, and he is definitely a singer. But I didn't even think about. I mean, oh, if they got another song and dance man like
Right?
Scott Bakula, and think about the episode where Scott Bakula eventually guest stars, and they sing together,
Right?
and it's just in a diner in 1984. Somewhere in the night. It's that my voice is all throat. Sorry, guys. Anyway,
No,
I sidetrack us. I sidetrack us. Anyway.
not at all. Not at all. I mean, it is interesting to think about if he does have that background. The only thing that I've seen him do thus far is just kind of straight acting. Although we're going to post a bunch of links, and you can find it on our Twitter, our Facebook page, and there might even be some in the show notes here. There's some fun videos that I found on YouTube of him. One is kind of an interview, and it's a great bit that kind of covers the breadth of his career. It's very short though, very compact, but he talks about Viet Gone. He talks about being having the theater background. He talks about his early experiences in film and television, and then he talks about kind of starting to get more prominent roles. Because the
Mhm.
interesting thing about him is this is a guy who's been around for about 15 years or so now, and he's really one of those guys that has just grinded out.
Mhm.
He's played unnamed characters in like How I Met Your Mother and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and he's
Mhm.
he's worked his way up to supporting roles, recurring roles, to then being a series regular and
Sure.
kind of a lead role on a couple of series, as well as having a rather prominent role from what we can gather, because there's not a whole lot of information available about it, oddly enough, even though it was supposed to premiere like 2 years ago, and that's Top Gun Maverick. He apparently has a
Hmm.
rather large role in that. But this is probably his first like big anchoring a
Sure.
show lead role in Quantum Leap. So it's cool to see that this is a guy who has worked very
Mhm.
hard over the past 15 years to get to this place. um and there's a video from last year. A lot of theater professionals worked on, sort of play readings, Zoom stuff, things that
Mhm.
could be done on YouTube. He took part in a 24-hour theater festival that basically it was written, directed, produced all within 24 hours, and he does this
Oh wow.
monologue,
Mhm.
and it's very entertaining. It's a great monologue, lots of nice levels, and at the very end of it, he actually does some dancing. He kind of does the robot a little bit or whatever, so he can move.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if he can sing, but he can move. But yeah, it was great to kind of get to know him. I watched
Mhm.
Kevin Can go F himself first,
Mhm.
and I will be completely honest. I kind of cheated. I mostly only watched his scenes, which is fine,
Sure.
because the great thing about
Mhm.
his role in the show is you don't necessarily have to watch everything else to understand his
Mhm.
character. And the very first thing that I noticed from the moment we first see him on screen, I mean, this is a guy that you can just relate to. He
Mhm.
does have kind of an everyman quality. And there's just heart and soul to this guy. I'm not going to say it reminded me of Scott or anything cliched like that, but
Sure.
there's a quality that he has that would certainly make me want to follow him. And I think again that heart, the sensitivity, is something that I think will only be a credit to his performance in Quantum Leap,
Mhm.
and it's something that we got from Scott. Again, and I don't want to compare him to Scott. He's going to get enough of that, so I'm not trying to do that. I'm just saying that
Sure.
that's a quality that Scott brought to the show, and I think it's a quality that he's going to bring to the show as well. Then seeing him in Here and Now, which is the HBO show, his character is completely different. His character
Hmm.
on that is he's kind of douchey, and
Hmm.
it's fascinating because you get to see this guy who kind of buys his own bullshit in a way, and he's a life
Which is life
coach,
coach. Yeah, yeah,
right? You
yeah.
know, so you get the sense that he does kind of think he's helping these people, but at the same time, he also knows he's making money. Um, he's a little
The
resentful of
two of
his
those are not
parents.
mutually
He's
exclusive, but yes, yeah,
right, of course, of course, of course.
yeah.
And so yeah, I think that he showed some depth and contrast in the two roles, and um, there's something about Sam, who he plays in Kevin Can Go F Himself, that feels right for the character of Ben. But there's also something about the character that he plays in Here and Now that can it lets me know that he's going to bring some depth, and there's different sides to this guy, and that he can do a lot. There's range there, and I think that that's something that's going to be very important for this iteration of Quantum Leap, especially with what we know already about the pilot.
Hmm. I'm excited. I haven't watched anything. I will certainly get into like watching some episodes, especially since you said the first few episodes of Kevin Can Go F Himself is on Amazon Prime. But you know what? I love Quantum Leap, and I did not see a single episode of Eisenhower and Lutz
Well,
before. Which, by the way,
only a couple dozen did, so
oh no, no, yeah. Which, by the way, if Scott Bakula fans, which I'm sure you are, if you have not discovered the Facebook page Back in Time, BAK in Time. I don't know if you follow this page.
no.
This page is just totally dedicated to just posting any interview, any old TV show, like rare find clip of Scott Bakula that he can get a hold of. And recently, he's just been posting just whole episodes of shows like Eisenhower and Lutz.
Wow.
Like he'll post them in two parts. His page has run into some problems because of Facebook's copyrighted
Sure,
stuff.
sure.
Like he's even said, at some points like this page may just disappear because after it hits like so many Facebook red flags. But BAK in Time, like I watched a few minutes of Eisenhower and Lutz in the last couple of weeks just because he puts it out
It was
there.
there. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I'm really super excited. And I'm sorry I got a little distracted while you were talking there because I got tempted to sign up for IMDb Pro to see if we can get a look at the rest of the cast because apparently the rest of the cast may be hiding behind a paywall on IMDb Pro, and I'm
Oh,
not sure.
interesting.
Anyway,
Well, one of the things that I'll say too about Kevin Can Go F Himself that it made me feel even more excited about the possibilities for the new show, and that had to do with the fact that his character Sam has a very interesting relationship with Allison, who is played by Annie Murphy, who was on Schitt's Creek as the daughter. Their relationship has some very interesting dynamics, and I think that it is going to be it made me excited about the potential for Ben and Addison and the dynamics in their relationship and what we know, of the observer and leaper relationship in general. So I think that some of the tensions that existed in that relationship, again, while not being the same as what we'll see with Ben and Addison, it was enough to kind of whet my appetite for the type of things that he can play, and we, as long as that person, which I'm sure that they're going to find someone with the right chemistry, because that's going to be the key, right? I mean, that's going to be the key to the show. You have to have that relationship, in the same way that we had Sam and Al. You have to have Ben and Addison be central, that dynamic and that relationship. So it was very exciting just to see the way that he played that, and again, a very different character, very different, everything about it is very, very different, but you could get a lot from him, and there's a warmth, again, there's just a warmth to
mhm.
Raymond Lee that I think is going to be essential to his portrayal of Ben and what we know as our leaper from Quantum Leap. This is a guy
Yeah.
who cares, and this is a guy who's going to be there, and this is a guy who, when I see him as my hero, looking out, reaching a hand out to try and save somebody, try to put something right that once went wrong, it's a
Mhm.
guy who I'm going to believe in, and I think that that's key. That's one of the most important aspects of the character. You need to believe in them, and
Absolutely.
So yeah, so it's exciting. I mean, here we are. You know, this is for real.
Yeah.
We've got movement. Production is going to start. We know who this actor is. You know, we don't have any other announcements yet. Maybe it's hiding behind an IMDb Pro paywall.
Mhm.
Maybe we'll get some more announcements before the end of the week. I would assume that they can't keep it under wraps forever. We'll
I
see.
know. I started. We were messaging back and forth with also Matt Dale from Behind the Mirror Image, and I think it was you that said, "Wouldn't it be funny if they just said, hey, here's the full cast. Scott Bakula's going to be in it.
Yeah. Right.
We got a full series pickup. See you in the fall."
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
not yet. But I love reaction I've seen online has been mostly positive to this. But of course, there has been the reaction that if it's not Scott Bakula in the lead, they're not interested.
Right.
Um, and I know you have some thoughts about that.
I do. I
I do.
do.
So my thought is I was thinking about it this morning, and there are two different categories. Like there are the people who truly quantum leap to them with Scott and Dean,
Sure.
and if they are not going to enjoy the new show because of that, I hate that. I want everybody to watch the show because I want it to last at least for a couple seasons, get a couple seasons. But I totally get that. But for some people, like the show is really the stars of the show. I get it. Some people they don't like the casting for woke reasons,
Right.
just for short. And I had the thought, the epiphany this morning is that one thing that frustrates me about Marvel fandom, Star Wars, Star Trek fandom is that a lot of times we tend to give a lot of our focus on the toxic fans.
Right.
And sometimes I wish fans would just stop doing that and get
Yeah.
over it. Because the truth is, there are a lot more good fans than there are toxic fans. Toxic fans take the spotlight because they are the most vocal on the internet.
Right.
So going forward, I am going to focus less on the toxic fans who hate the show for woke reasons. And I'm just going to seek out. I'm going to enjoy the fans who are on board and who are with the show. Now, if you're on the
Yeah.
fence, I'm totally here to win you over. But if you've totally written off the show because the new show is going to be too woke, good day, sir. I'm done
Right.
with you.
Yeah. You're barking
Yeah.
up the wrong podcast, probably. Uh,
Yeah.
no, I agree with a lot of that. And I think one of the things that I said in our conversation that we were having with Matt earlier is that I want this show to be a massive success. I want I want this iteration of Quantum Leap to be even bigger than the original Quantum Leap. We know that the original Quantum Leap was never a huge ratings hit. You know, it was a critical darling for a time, and it certainly had its fans who were very passionate about the show, but it never it never reached the stratosphere of
Sure.
other shows, and it obviously has a loyal following. And I think that, syndication and a little bit of streaming and Blu-rays and DVDs have certainly helped to keep the show afloat and introduce it to new people. I think that this new series obviously is going to do that even more. There are going to be a lot of people checking out the original series as a result of this new series. They already are. We've even seen it from our numbers.
Mm.
You can even see it. I just out of morbid curiosity, because we were talking about the novels earlier, which I own all of them. I know you own all of them as well. But I went on eBay just to do a quick little cruise, and it's like people are clearly already speculating because the prices on the books are far higher than they
Are
were
you
a
serious?
couple of years ago. Oh yeah, man. A couple of years ago, you could have honestly bought most of the books for probably like $5, $6, $7 a pop. There were a couple of books that were considered a little bit more rare that would fetch a higher price on occasion or whatever. But now you're looking at like double, even in some cases triple digits. Like it's pretty crazy.
Are
And
they selling though?
same thing with the comic books. I don't know. I didn't look at sold listings. I just know that that's what they're being listed for right now. But even the comic books, which you could find for like $2 and $3 a pop, are now like 7, 8, 9, $10 a pop. So it's clear that the excitement level is there in some fashion. We'll see what happens. But I think that for the people that are so attached to the original show and the original characters, and that's the only thing they can envision the show as being, you know, there's this part of me that almost feels bad for them, because I want them to be able to kind of move on past that and enjoy something else potentially. At the same time, I get it. We've seen a lot of reboots and reimaginings over the years that have absolutely had their detractors, and in some cases for good reason. But I've always been the type of person that wants to at least give something a fair shake. In recent memory, obviously, I can point to something like Discovery, Star Trek Discovery, or the new Star Wars sequel films as being something that were incredibly divisive. But I wanted to go in and give them every opportunity to stun me, to challenge me, to teach me, to entertain me in ways that maybe the previous iterations hadn't. And I'll be completely honest, I don't know that they were always completely successful at that. There are parts of those new Star Wars movies that I love just as much, if not more, than anything else Star Wars related, to be completely honest with you. There's parts of Discovery that I think are just so damn good. And I think even for me, I was a little stuck because it took me a moment to kind of get past some of my hangups about the show and about it, is this Star Trek or whatever, or it doesn't look like my Star Trek and all that crap, to really enjoy what it had to offer. So I understand where that's coming from. When it comes to the people that are having a problem with the casting choice based off of the color of someone's skin or the vowels in their last name, then yeah, I don't know what to say to those people other than what we've already said and the questions that we've already asked. Because again, one of the things that I can't help but think is like, we heard so much they need to cast the best actor or whatever. Well, we know that they cast a pretty wide net, and even based off of the casting notice and some descriptions that we read that weren't in that casting notice, that what they were going for when they kind of wrote the show and envisioned the show is not necessarily who they cast, which says to me that there was a degree of we want to see what people are bringing us.
Sure.
As opposed to just zeroing in on one specific thing and doing it for one specific reason. So I think that for that crowd, there's nothing that I'm ever going to be able to say that's going to change their mind. I've certainly tried.
No.
I engaged in a nearly week-long Twitter conversation with someone, and when I realized how circuitous the conversation was, I knew that there was no way that I was going to really affect their opinion. And so it was just time to kind of move on. And it's tough because I want to be respectful and thoughtful and kind and generous and curious and all those sorts of things that to try to push the dialogue further as opposed to just shut things down and scream, I'm right and you're wrong, and piss off and shut doors. I want to keep them open. But there comes a moment when it's just kind of like, I can leave that door open, but I can also walk away from it. So, so that's kind of where I stand with them. When it comes to the nostalgia stuff, though, I had a lot of thoughts about it because I have a lot of thoughts about nostalgia in general. It's a funny thing. It's one hell of a drug. And it's probably not the first time that you've heard that. And it certainly won't be the last. But no matter how much we cling to these images or ghosts of our past, they can only take us so far. They can be a comfort, they can be a reminder, and sometimes they can reveal themselves in new ways. But hardly ever do they challenge us or push us forward. And the thing is I love Sam Beckett and Scott Bakula. You only need to listen to this podcast to know how much they mean to me, to us. Sam challenged me and affirmed me when I didn't know where to turn for guidance about certain things. And that might sound kind of crazy. It's not necessarily a good thing, but it's what I had when I was a kid. And the classic series, it taught me, it moved me, and on occasion it shook me. And in some ways it still does, but the transformative power it held once upon a time in my life is lost to my foreknowledge. I know what's coming. I know where it's been and where it's going. 30 years on, I'd like to think something more can be mined from the sandbox, but it can't be done in the same way. It'd just be a rehash, a cheap cash in on a niche within a niche within a niche. Everyone has heard me talk on this podcast about how I was fine without a reboot or a sequel. There came a time when I was like, no, that time has passed. And I thought that was never truer than after the passing of Dean Stockwell. But here we are. And I am so enthused. I'm over the moon. The reservations I used to have are gone. But I haven't been completely honest with everyone.
We haven't been completely. Yes.
That's right. I have a cheat sheet. We have a cheat sheet. We're not playing fair. There's a card up our sleeve. And that's because we've seen the script. We've read the pilot script. I know what's coming. And if you have a little faith in your humble host and fellow fan, I think we're in for one hell of a ride. Everything we loved about the heart and soul of the premise of this show is there. Sure, it's now Ben and Addison instead of Sam and Al, and we're going to see a lot more of the project in present day, but we need that. There are new challenges to be met, new lessons to be taught, and new ways to be moved. And, if I may, I have faith in God, time, fate, or whatever, that this
Mhm.
team wants to bring us all of that and more. It's good, you guys. It's really,
Mhm.
really good.
It is.
I
So
mean,
yeah, like you said,
yeah.
we so how to say, so we've had the script for about a month now.
A while.
I want to say I want to say about a month. And so if you go back and you listen to the first couple of episodes that we did about it, where we gave you tidbits and we said like our source at NBC is telling us this, our source sent us the script
Yeah.
and we were able to read it and get some stuff from that.
And it's worth
Um,
noting also that we not only know that the script that we were initially sent was legit because I trust the source, but also because someone at an agency sent us a copy as well.
so, so yes, so the
So we got the
big, so
script
yeah,
twice.
we got the script twice. So yeah, a source, a friend of ours who works at NBC, he sent it to us about a month ago, and then about 2 weeks ago, a writer's agent who asked to go by the name of Captain Galaxy,
The Observer and Captain Galaxy. I love it.
Captain Galaxy, who has to go by the name of Captain Galaxy. He got it because he was just through his channels. It was passed on to him as well. We compared the scripts; they are the same. I was curious to see if it was like different, different versions, different drafts, or whatever. Um, but yeah, it's a script. It is really good. It's a great story. It manages to move the series into something different, and it manages to pay homage to the original series in that there are a couple lines in the pilot that echo lines from the pilot, but not the lines you would think.
Right.
It's not like you're part of a time travel experiment that went a little caca.
Right. Yeah.
It's not that.
Addison's not
It's
going to
like
say caca at any point, as
no, no,
far
no.
as we know, unless there's a
You know,
change.
unless it's there are a couple like lines like you only really remember those lines if you are really fans of the show, of the
Yeah.
original series.
There are a
So that's
couple of
why, yeah.
beats that are very heavily reminiscent of Genesis.
Mhm.
In addition to those lines, like you're saying. Yeah, one of the things that I think we've kind of intimated on previous episodes and even a little bit, on social media, we have made the decision, and some people may hate us for this. You may turn things off as soon as I say
Mhm.
it and never listen to us again. But we have made the decision that we're not going to share it. And there are certain things within the script that we are not going to share.
Yeah.
Um,
And here's my thing. Here's my thing to that. That may annoy you, but also, like I said, we got this from our source at NBC. A writer's agent sent us to us within pretty short time. I don't want it to be spoiled for anyone who doesn't want it to be spoiled, but I will be surprised if not like 2 months from now if some Reddit user doesn't post it.
right. Yes.
If you want to see it in advance, you're probably going to get to be able to see it in advance. If
Like
you want to. It's just not going to be from us.
I can certainly say that the Observer is not sharing it with anyone else. Like I know the
Mm,
Observer is only sharing it with us.
yeah.
I can say that with 100% certainty. Captain Galaxy might be sharing it with other people.
Mm,
We have shared it with one person. We'll let them clue you in on that, but there were definitely caveats made during that sharing that we were just sort
sure.
of like this is we all agree on this, right?
Yeah.
um but yeah, the big thing for me is that it's not our place to put that information out into the wide open. I feel like we would be doing a disservice to the artists that are working so hard on this show if we just threw it all out there. It wouldn't be fair to them. So as hungry as some people might
Mm,
be for this is not in any way us trying to like wave it in people's faces at all. This is just us saying, like to anyone that's maybe on the fence, this is our plea to you to come down from the fence because we've seen the golden ticket and we've seen the inside of the chocolate
mm.
factory and it's flippin' awesome. So,
Mhm.
I think that that there's they get it. They get so many of the intangibles about the original
Mhm.
series, and I think that the script is a testament to that. I think that there are some wonderful twists, some wonderful surprises in store, and I just don't think that it's our place to reveal those or spoil those. For the people that don't want to be spoiled at all, which I know that there are a lot of people out there that might be hearing this right now that are just sort of like, no, don't say anything more. I don't want to know anything more. Awesome, more power to you. Um, and again, out of respect for the creators and what they have done, it just, it's just not our place to do all of that. um that's not to say that there aren't a few more things that we won't talk about, as time goes
Sure.
on,
Sure.
in addition to some of the stuff we've already mentioned. But the big reveals, the special stuff, yeah, we're gonna let them tell
For
that
sure.
story the way they want to tell it, instead of two idiots with microphones,
Sure. I mean,
telling you.
here's the thing. Like, they're getting ready to shoot it here in a couple weeks, and things are may drastically change. Like
Right.
the nationality of the lead. That's already changed. Who knows what is going to change? What has changed in the shootings? So anything that we put out is speculation. I will say that in the script there are what I'll call like two big swings, like two big um like you could say like this is what the writers really want
Yeah.
to happen.
Right.
And I'm curious to see if that actually comes to be from a production standpoint.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean?
I do, and I think that, and yeah, I think that that's one of those things that there's stuff that's out of their control. Now, based off of some of the stuff that we have heard, whether it's an interview here or there, or a report, in Deadline, or Hollywood Reporter or whatever, it seems like things are going to be okay for them, that they're going to get what they want, and we in turn are going to get what we want as a
Yeah.
fandom, which is going to be pretty awesome. um so, kind of leaping off of that, no pun intended, I swear to God, I didn't actually mean that as a
Yeah.
pun.
I call
uh
foul.
I threw something up on Twitter earlier, just kind of mentioning that we were going to be recording and what we were going to be talking about, to see if anybody had any questions, anything that they wanted to throw at us. And we did get a couple, actually. Adrian Sal, friend of the show, he tweeted at us, let's brainstorm. How accurate do we think it will be compared to the original? For example, the rules. Will Ben be able to travel outside his lifetime? How liberal will the Al character be? Will he be a Joker or a Boy Scout like Sam was? Either way, it's exciting. Yes, it is exciting. What do you think, Dennis? Like, how would you answer that, or at least the first part? How accurate do we think it will be compared to the original, especially the rules?
Um, I'm going to shift away from things that I know that are definite because I've read, and even then, like I've read the pilot script, but even then, those things might change. So I don't know if this is
Right.
going to change. Um, I excuse me, I've seen this thrown out there full times of like how liberal Addison is going to be. I have a feeling like everybody at Project Quantum Leap is going to be leaning a little bit more liberal if we're talking
Sure.
about politics or anything like that. Um, do I think Addison is going to be whatever the woman version is of womanizer of a cad that Dean Stockwell, that Al was? I don't think so.
No. Yeah.
I think it is going to be, and I've said this before, what I'm really excited about it. Uh, it's going to be true to the spirit of the original show, but it's exciting because now I am hoping that they keep Ben mostly restricted to 80s, 90s, into 2000s,
Yeah. It's funny
like the
because
radio stations I listened to. Uh,
oh man, it's funny because I've changed my opinion. Early
mhm,
on, I was very excited about the prospect of, especially when we thought that perhaps that there would be like an ensemble of leapers, like a team of leapers. um
don't do it.
no, don't do it. We're glad that they're not. But one of the things that I said is, like, it would be cool that if they could travel, within Sam's lifetime as well. Based off of what we know, which is limited to just one script, it does seem like they will stick with only within the Leaper's lifetime, only within Ben's lifetime, which
Mhm.
we can kind of assume is going to be like what Raymond Lee's
Sure.
actual birth year is, 1987. So let's
87.
say
Yeah.
87 to present day. Um, and one of the things that I've changed is like that is all new and exciting to me, because one of the comments I had made, and I had a friend of mine who, who basically agreed with me, but also brought up a couple of things that I was just sort of like, oh God, that's a really great point. And and it brought me to this thought. It is hard for me to look back on, my lifetime, which is, the 80s, the 90s, 2000s, 2010s today, um, and see some of the same impactful moments that, say, my parents saw, and a lot of that has to do with the civil rights era and Vietnam. And I think that what we saw on TV with the original Quantum Leap is also indicative of that, the allure of that even today. But I started to think, especially when I was thinking about some of the stuff I was saying about nostalgia and being taught new things and learning new things and challenged in new ways, is that there is so much to mine from that era, from the 90s and the 2000s. There's so much, I think, that when you're living it, sometimes it's hard to understand the impact and the importance of the times in which we live. And to have a show to actually maybe teach us a little bit about that and why what we went through was important, why what we went through might have been traumatic, or etc. That it's not just 9/11 or an endless war in the Middle East or whatever, that there's so much more that happened during that time. And to be shown it in small ways, the way that the
Hmm.
original series did, I think is going to be incredibly powerful for our generation, to be completely honest with you. And I think incredibly instructive for, the generations that have come after us. Think about the 10 or 11-year old who stumbles onto this show the same way that we did when we were kids, and the
Hmm.
lessons that they might learn about what was happening before they were born. So it really has taken on an entirely new light for me, and I'm so excited to see the types of stories they get to tell,
Hmm.
in those times.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like you said, there's so much to mind. Like the 90s, when a lot of us thought like it was never going to get better than the 90s, and then 9/11, and then everything that followed. I know that there's kind of this mood that some people like, 9/11 happened and then nothing really good has happened since.
Right.
There's that feeling in that sense. So I'm really excited to see that the stories that they mine from this. um and I'm just guessing, like, Quantum Leap tend to stay really heavily in the 50s and the 60s.
Yes.
Like I think even like 1957 was the most leaped in year throughout this TV series, if I'm remembering that correctly. I'm really hoping that this series uh, jumps around and comes like closer to contemporary present times more. And also, we haven't talked about this, but I saw this mentioned in the one article about like what some Reddit users want to see from the new series. It's going to be interesting to see if they go more international.
Yeah.
And I think that they will, because I feel like they didn't do international so much in the original series, in part because of budget.
Right.
And I think that will not be so much of an issue now. And I
No.
think they will be able to show us stories in other countries, even if they're shooting here in the US or wherever. They're still going to be able to show us those other stories. So,
Right. I mean, you only need to
so
look at a show like Alias, for
sure.
instance, or Lost, or any. I mean, there's so many shows. Blind Spot, which Martin Garrow was, executive producer and creator of, and is an EP on this Quantum Leap show. Blind Spot had episodes that took place outside of the
Sure.
U.S. So I
Yeah.
think it's entirely possible and very likely that we could see some cool stuff that takes place outside the U.S.
Yeah. Now the shift gears and you talk about like updated and how true it's going to be to the original. From what we can gather from the script, it seems like, whereas the original series was about 5 years in the future, like 1995, about
Hmm.
it's been established that's when Sam leaves. So about 5 years
Right.
in the future, we are in 2022
Yes.
in the new series. And from what it looks like, we are not going to see the advancement from the Quantum Leap future
Right.
with the bright lights and everything. It looks like uh, Project Quantum Leap looks futuristic from a very contemporary standpoint, like
Yeah.
what we expect a top secret government project now to look like. And Carol Davis, she posted on one of our posts from this last week that when they try to do the future in the original series, it always looked a little fake.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad it does not seem, what we can tell from the script, it does not seem that they are going to go that way with
Right.
this new series, and I'm happy for it.
Yeah, yeah, me too. I think that it's one of those things that watching the show now, it definitely takes me out a little bit. It's fun. It's kind of kitschy. It's it's whatever it's what those types of shows did in the '80s, and early '90s.
Sure.
But I think that we can get we can get something a little bit different and a little bit something that's a little bit more grounded, which I think
Mm-hmm.
is something that's going to help the show a great deal because we will be spending more time at the project. It's not going
Mm-hmm.
to just be focused on the leaps. I mean, we went nearly 3 seasons, almost 4 seasons without ever seeing the inside of the project. So I think that this will, this will facilitate a lot
Mm-hmm.
even from a production standpoint.
Oh, sure.
They don't have to stretch too much, or you know what I mean. So I think it'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Nom Nom also
Nom, nom,
has
nom.
something to say. As they are calling it a direct sequel, do you think they will maintain certain story arcs like the Evil Leaper and the Bar Al's Place, Sam's wife and daughter, Ziggy? Should the focus be Project Quantum Leap or the search for Sam? I'm so excited, happy just knowing it's Quantum Leap. First of all, yes, it is Quantum Leap. I mean, there's no doubt about that. Uh, I think we've already said that Ziggy is indeed in the pilot. Ziggy
Mm-hmm.
exists, so we will see Ziggy.
Yeah.
As for the rest of it, I mean, that's all stuff that is definitely up in the air. I think that we will definitely see the Evil Leaper at some point. I think that will be something that's explored. I don't think it's going to be Aaliyah. I don't think that we're going to, but I think that we will see that project at some point.
I am less interested in seeing an actual evil leaper. I am more interested in seeing some sort of nefarious entity working against Project Quantum Leap in the future
Sure.
or in present day.
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
more I'm more interested in that.
I think we're definitely going to get that. I mean, I think that one of the things that, I'll go ahead and throw out there is that there's clearly some tension between the higher ups and the project, especially like some of what Magic, the character of Magic has to do is kind
Sure.
of some of the stuff that we saw Al do in the original series, sort of, run interference for the project a little bit, kind of like,
Mm.
no, 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 give us more time, give us more money, that sort of thing. So I think that there's definitely people out there that aren't interested in this continuing, that maybe aren't interested in the possibility of Sam coming home. I think one of the things that we will see as the show goes on is that there is a direct force that has been working against Sam coming home. That there is somebody out there that is sort of like, I don't want that guy coming back. And not because they're glad he's out there changing things for the better.
Oh God.
Um,
Oh God. You know what? I would love. I'm geeking out about it right now. I want it to come out why Sam originally leaked.
oh, yeah, sure.
I want there to be a big reveal that Sam doesn't even remember.
One thing
But
that I feel like we can say without like spoiling anything is that there's I mean uh, it's implicit, it's not explicit, but there's a pretty straight reason for Ben leaping early, for Ben stepping into the
sure.
accelerator early.
Mhm.
And it's kind of nice to have that, as opposed to in the original series, it was just one of those things where it's like, he did it. All right, let's move on now, which is fine. I mean, that's
Sure.
totally valid. I'm not saying that we needed to have it spoon fed to us. It was nice to, imagine those reasons or whatever. But at the same time, yes, discovering that, having an answer to that mystery would be really cool.
Absolutely. Um, Now, here's a question I don't think it was on your list, but I'm curious if the series lasts long enough, do you think they will reverse the title card from the end of the original series? And if the series lasts long enough, do you think they will reverse that and bring Sam home?
That is really tough because one of the other questions that Nom Nom asked was about Sam's wife and daughter, and that's one of those things where I don't know. I'm willing to make guesses about some of this other stuff, but that's one thing that I'm just sort of, and part of the reason why I'm saying I don't know is because I don't know if I want that to be a part of it. Um, I'm sure that at some point they will have to pick something up, right? Like they're not just going to ignore that. It's certainly based off of all the other, stuff that they've built into the pilot. It's clear that they're using what's come before. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they will do that. I still wonder, and this also kind of goes to the question that Omnum asked, is that Al's place, I think is I think we will see that place again. And I still stand by what I said that maybe Sam doesn't come home. Maybe Sam ends up at Al's place. That's just where he stays.
I would love to see that. I feel like that's almost too deep of a cut. I don't know. That's
We'll
too. That's
see.
not too deep of a cut. It's. I'm afraid it's going to be too weird for the network.
Here's one thing I will say. I think that there is a very good chance that whether or not Sam comes home in the way that we think home, what we see is what home means or not, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that if they are able to tell that story, actors, contracts, etc., all that stuff willing, then I think that Sam's character will get an ending that we are happy with. I do believe
Yeah.
that. Now, whether or not that means that he literally comes home, I don't know. But I
I don't
do
know.
think we'll get an ending for that character that we are much happier with than a
Yeah.
misspelled title card.
Sure. Exactly. Okay. Last question. Maybe we should start to wrap it up
Hmm.
here.
Hmm.
If they do bring Donna back, Mimi Kuzik or Terry Hatcher?
It's so funny you said that because I was thinking the same damn thing this past week. I think it would be awesome to see Terry Hatcher in the role, right? But at the same time, it's sort of like, well, but is that fair? Is that fair to Mimi Kuzik? Because like, she was the Donna that we saw in the leap back. But Terry Hatcher was the original Donna and has now gotten to the age that like she could play that role and it would be age
And
appropriate.
beyond. Yeah.
It wouldn't necessarily, I don't know.
Yeah. And for clarity, most fans know this, and you may not know this, but originally they wanted to bring Terry Hatcher back for the leap back, but she was unavailable for some reason, which is why the role was recast. But
Hadn't wasn't it because Lois and Clark was starting up?
I think that was like a year before Lois and Clark, though.
Oh,
I
okay,
think.
okay.
Yeah.
Well,
But
yeah.
anyway,
Anyway, yeah. One other thing that I wanted to touch on before we hit the home stretch here is that some people have been speculating about Temptation Eyes and about Ben Seong being the kind of the illegitimate son, if you will, of Tamlin Matsuda and Sam Beckett. No, that is not happening. I think it's good speculation. But the big issue with that is that Ben is a very different nationality than
yes, Asian,
she was.
but different
But
nationality.
yeah, he's South Korean and she was Japanese. So yeah. But anyway,
Yeah.
I think that yeah, I don't know. It's so exciting. We're in such an exciting place, and it's almost maddening to think that it's going to be like over 6 months before we get to really see this
I
thing.
know. So timeline. Matt Dale, friend of the podcast, he broke this. It looks like May 16th is the date for the pilot to be shown to NBC brass. Am I wrong?
No, so those are the upfronts for the networks and the advertisers. So
Okay,
they will not show the pilot there. They will likely show footage though.
I got
Um,
it. Okay,
but I doubt that the pilot will be ready at that point. Maybe. I don't know.
a
I don't
rough
know.
cut. I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah. But they'll definitely show some footage, which by that point we're gonna know the whole cast, and we'll, maybe shortly after that we'll get some footage. I would suspect that at Comic-Con they might do something because it's, I mean, it's in that kind of wheelhouse. So I would expect by Comic-Con in July that we might get, like a full trailer, which would be a few months ahead, obviously, of the pilot dropping. But I could see something like that happening. Um,
hmm
just based on that's the type of thing that Comic-Con is good for or whatever. So
yeah, that would be. Yeah, and speaking and one last thing I want to address because people keep saying like when are they going to announce that Scott Bakula is a part of it? When are they going to announce? When are they going to announce? And I've commented this a couple times on different threads in our Facebook group and other Facebook groups. It may be possible. And I really hope that they do this. I hope that they manage to, if Scott Bakula is in the pilot, I really hope that they manage to keep it a secret
Yeah.
as long as they can until. And I made the comparison when they did the Office finale.
Right.
No one knew that Steve Carell was coming back. NBC didn't even know Steve Carell was coming back until Greg Daniels showed NBC brass the rough cut of the finale.
Right.
So I'm hoping that they keep it under wraps as long as
Even
possible.
thinking just recently of the release of Spider-Man No Way Home, like, that was something that they were able to keep under wraps. There was a lot of speculation, but
Oh,
nobody
sure.
knew. Nobody knew for sure. Nobody knew for sure. And I'm not going to spoil anything on the off chance that people haven't seen it yet. But
Mm-hmm.
there are a few faces that show up that people were sort of like, oh, this is going to happen. It's
Sure.
probably going to happen. But nobody really knew. Um, so yeah, we'll see. We'll see if they choose to do that, if they are able to do that. Again, I don't want them to have to sacrifice any of their surprises. Do you know what I mean? Like, I
Mm-hmm.
don't. I want the creators and the creative team to be able um, to show people something come October, if that is indeed when the air date is. That's kind of speculative at this point. I want them to be able to show people something that can knock their socks off in multiple ways. And I think based off of what we've seen, that will absolutely happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So before we get out of here,
Uh,
something that we haven't done much recently because we've been just so single-minded and focused on the show, which is great because we love doing that. Is we haven't really talked much about ourselves,
mm-hmm.
and on kind of the old version of the podcast, if you will, we used to kind of do check-ins every once in a while, just
Yeah.
seeing how everybody was doing. And we want people to be able to know who we are, and certainly ask us questions that don't even necessarily have to do with Quantum Leap if you want to. Um, so Dennis, how are you? What's new in your world?
We're doing, I mean, this year has been a big one for my family. So we packed up, we left Chicago after I was there for 15 years. My wife, Betsy, she was there for 20 years. We packed up our two kids and we moved to Southern Illinois. We're about a half hour out of St. Louis, completely different change of pace. I bought a massage therapy business because I've been a massage therapist for over a decade, and so now I own a massage therapy business and doing that. And it's been fun, but it's been a challenge. My own personal practice is going pretty good. It's hard finding other therapists to hire because, like a lot of other professions in the pandemic, a lot of people just up and left the industry.
Yeah.
Um, but on the flip side of that, I'm in a good place where if I have to turn a client away, I feel okay about it because massage therapy is in demand right now, and there's not a lot of massage therapists. So it's like, hey, here's my schedule. You don't like my schedule? Someone else will come. Um, so yeah, if you're new, two kids, one who just turned 5 and one who's coming up on 2 years old, and they're just a delight.
Yes,
They're
they are.
joyful. Big changes in daycare. The 5-year-old, he is starting pre-K, and it's yeah, it's an exciting time. What about you, Sam?
Well, so 3.5-year-old and a 4-month-old, and I have been a stay-at-home dad, and that took on a very new complexion last month. I want to say, yeah, towards the beginning of last month, so about a month ago, because my wife returned to the office 3 days a week.
Mm,
Up until that time, she was working from home. So even though I was kind of the primary childcare, like she was there if
sure.
things kind of broke down or whatever, and it's been challenging in some ways, but it's been awesome, and we've had a lot of fun. It's definitely a new role for me. The past 5 or 6 years have been very different from the life that I led prior to that, where it was just gig to gig and working as an actor. And I've been able the past couple of years to have a kind of a few one-off jobs here or there. Last summer, I finally kind of got an offer to do something which was nice. I hadn't auditioned for anything though in a very long time, probably 4 years, maybe a little bit more than 4 years, and I just been fortunate enough to get a couple of random offers to do a couple of things. So I had a couple of jobs, which was nice. Um, but I'd been working full time in the marketing department of a nonprofit arts organization here in Chicago, and it was a 9 to 5 job, and there was a lot that I liked about it, but I mostly kind of hated it. And one of the things that the pandemic did is that I got laid off. After the PPP loans ran out, they laid off a bunch of people, and I was one of them. They didn't need my services anymore, and that was kind of when my wife and I were sort of like, all right, let's try this other thing out, and you can be the stay-at-home dad. And then last August I thought I should try and get into this whole auditioning thing. Again, theaters are going to start opening back up soon, so I did my very first self-tape, and I heard crickets, and that's fine. That's just part of the
Mhm.
job. And then I didn't do anything for probably close to 6 months. And then
Uh-huh.
last week, 2 weeks ago, I did two more self tapes, and heard crickets on the one, and then the other one got me an offer. So I booked a gig at Lifeline Theater here in Chicago, which I'm very excited about.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it feels good to kind of be back and doing things again, because for a multitude of reasons I hadn't been for a while, and now I get to do that again, which is great. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm understudying a role. There, they put out a call. They were looking for an understudy, and I figured, why not? I'll
Sure.
just send in my tape and see what happens. And got the offer, so I booked it, and let's see what happens.
Fantastic.
What's next?
Fantastic.
So
You told me about the other one, but I didn't want to ask because as a rule, I don't ask people
right,
about the results of auditions, the job interviews. If I
as
don't
a,
hear anything, I assume you didn't get it, and
right.
I don't want to be that person.
It's funny because as a rule, I usually don't tell people that I'm doing things like that, because I always figure it's
Sure.
gonna just come back to bite me, and then I'm not gonna get it, and there's that awkward conversation where it's like, nah, I didn't get it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
Well, cool.
hey,
That's
that's
awesome.
just it's a part of the job. It's a part of the job. So yeah, things are exciting, and I'm so thrilled to have all this great stuff to talk about too, and as it pertains to Quantum Leap, and I'm very very excited about the possibilities. And we're going to do our darndest to get some guests on the show when the time is right. Obviously,
Mhm.
that's not yet really the case, but yeah, we'll see what happens. Hopefully, sky's the limit. We've been able to make a few connections, and
Mhm.
we just want to, like I said, we want to be your go-to. We want you guys to follow along with us. We're just fans, and we're loving the opportunity to talk about something that we love and share it with you guys, and share the conversations that have been happening over on Facebook and Twitter and everywhere in between, and we're so grateful for that. And one of the other things that we're grateful for is that we're not alone in doing this. And this is going to sound strange because I listen to a lot of podcasts, and there aren't a lot of podcasts out there that do what I'm about to do. But I'm a firm believer that rising tide lifts all boats, and we are not alone in doing what we do. And Matt and Chris and Allison over at the Quantum Leap podcast put out a great podcast, and have been doing so for quite a while as well. Just because we happened to cross the finish line before they did, they still crossed the finish line, which cannot be said for some of the other Quantum Leap podcasts that have
Oh yeah.
existed. There's a new one, however, out there called The Waiting Room, which I just heard about. I think they're on their third episode. So check them out as well. And who knows? Maybe we'll do something crossover at some point, a little Crisis on Infinite Earth style, and see what happens when worlds
Oh, that'd be
collide.
yes. I know Matt had the idea of us doing the leap back
Leap
because
back,
the way
yeah,
our schedules were going, we were going to hit the leap back at the same time, and then we did not.
yeah.
I can't remember who slowed down there,
Well, I
but
think what happened honestly is that we slowed down first, but then they slowed down longer, and that's where we kind of eclipsed them, because
yeah,
they were kind of off and on. Their schedule was a little spotty, but then we kind of got a little spotty, and then all of a sudden we picked back up before they did, and then we kind of eclipsed them.
sure.
Um, But but yeah, it's not a race. This is something that we all love, and I think that the more voices in the room, the more people that are talking about it, the more perspectives we get, the better off we're all going to be, and I think the better the fandom's going to be, because
Mhm.
we're coming into a very exciting time. And if this show is as great as I think it can be, and hopefully the massive success that I want it to be, then there's going to be a lot of voices talking about it for hopefully a long time to come. And we certainly want to make sure that you guys have plenty to listen to. So we'll be
Yeah,
here.
yeah. Yeah, touching back on what you said earlier, I definitely think Quantum Leap could be franchise worthy.
Oh, totally.
And I would love to see that. I would love to have seen it 20 years earlier. But hey, I'd love
Right?
to see it.
Ah, we're there.
Yeah.
We're there.
Well, on
We're
that
coming.
note, should we leap on out of here?
Yeah, let's leap out of here. Let's leap out of
Yeah,
here.
we like
Always a
I said
pleasure.
before we went on mic. Yeah, we're recording late tonight. My wife is taking off for a brief work trip tomorrow up to Chicago. She works remotely. That was one of the reasons why we got to move down here. It was like she got a very nice remote job. But she's taking a quick trip up to Chicago. But we're getting up at 4 a.m. to send her off to the St. Louis train station. So
You madman.
and so Daddy needs some sleep.
Yeah.
But yeah, we are Fatesfied Wheel. Hit us up online on the webs, Fatesfied Wheel everywhere, fatesfiedwheel.com. Yeah, fun
Yeah.
out here.
Take care of yourselves. Take care of one another, and be safe out there. And hopefully we'll be back next week to talk about Starcrossed. You never know what could happen between now and then. We
Or
might
something
get
new,
some more
exciting.
news. We
Yeah.
could, yeah, exactly. And if you have a dime to spare, look into UNICEF, look into Doctors Without Borders, look into the Red Cross. There's a lot of people out there, obviously, that need a lot of help right now.
Yeah.
I certainly don't have to tell you that, but I'll give those three a plug anyway, because I believe strongly in the work
Mhm.
that UNICEF and Doctors Without Borders in particular do. So.
Yeah.
Help out if you can. And we'll be back next week with all new material. I'm not going to promise it'll be star-crossed, but it'll be all new material.
It'll be new material. Yeah. All right. See
All
you
right,
then,
let's
y'all.
leave out of here.